Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Mattel Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom Roarivores Allosaurus. The Allosaurus lived 155 to 150 million years ago during the late Jurassic period. The name Allosaurus means different lizard and is derived from Greek meaning allos, different, and saurus, lizard. Exactly how big is the Allosaurus? We'll go ahead and take the tape measure. From its tail to the end of its nose, you're looking at 13 inches in length. From the bottom of its feet, or basically the bottom where the backdrop starts, to the top of its head, I guess, you're looking at approximately 5 inches in height. Here's a few quick size comparisons. There's the Allosaurus next to the Metricanthiosaurus, which we just finished having a look at. You'll see roughly they are very similar in build, similar in size, although the pose is slightly drastically different between the Allosaurus here and the Metricanthiosaurus that's in the front. How about some smaller dinosaurs as comparisons? Well, we can bring in, say, Velociraptor Blue, so you guys can see there, and it's another fun one that we can bring in. How about the Dilophosaurus? I was like bringing that one in for size comparisons. Both the Dilophosaurus as well as Velociraptor Blue were from the action packs, and yes, we've already had a look at those. If you missed out on those, feel free to go back and have a look at any of the Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom reviews by heading over to the Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom playlist. Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's have a close look here at the Allosaurus. Now, like with the other Roarivores, I had to do a little bit of assembly. I took the dinosaur out of the packaging. I had to install the tail. It's to note, though, without triggering the sound effects, that the tail doesn't seem to want to stay in very well. Often it seems like it wants to be separating out. Maybe I just didn't apply enough pressure to get it in there. Really a neat looking dinosaur. One of its notable traits, of course, is the bridged bone structure that's above its head. Some have considered these to be maybe sunshades, or what it might have used during battle if it was fighting other dinosaurs, more for like an offensive weapon than anything else. I always used to think that they were like nasal cavities, something that allowed the dinosaur to breathe better, but I think it's actually just an additional bone structure that's on its skull. Something else that I've noticed on this specific dinosaur is the fact that its tongue is gray. That makes me think I'm going to have to go and just double check the other Allosauruses in stores, what few I can find, that is, and see if the other tongues are the same color. I'm wondering if maybe that's a paint defect, or if the Allosaurus was one of the few dinosaurs that actually had a dark gray tongue. It's rather interesting to kind of see that. If you've picked this one up for yourself, let me know in the comments section if yours happens to have a gray tongue. And when I said harder to find, or what I am able to find, the Allosaurus of the Roarivores seemed the hardest to find. Actually, that's not true. The other one that I couldn't find, let's just have a look here on the back of the packaging. Now, here in Canada, I'm just going to bring this in for a second. Here in Canada, we don't have names listed on packaging. What we ultimately get here is numbers. It's so that they can use different languages, so it's a multi-language package here. Bilingual packaging, I suppose. But down here, they don't give you the names of the dinosaurs. We've already had a look at the Triceratops. We've already had a look at the Metricanthiosaurus. But I was unable to find this one at the time that I'm doing the review here of the Allosaurus. So, FYI, I'm still on the hunt for finding this one. This one seems to be the hardest to find of all the Roarivores, Allosaurus being the second. While we're also on the topic of packaging, I might as well just keep it in for the rest of at least this chunk of review, to show you the slight color variation between what we see on the back of the packaging and what we ultimately see here on the dinosaur. The packaging just depicts the dinosaur almost of a dark, dark gray, almost borderline, yes, what? Yep, gunmetal. I was waiting for somebody to say gunmetal because I was like saying gunmetal in my reviews. but it's of a slightly darker shade of gray, not quite the same gray as what we're getting here with this Allosaurus. Something interesting also to note is all these little things that I want to point out during the course of this review, that the eyes seem not only a different shape, but also larger on the one on the back versus what we ultimately get here in package form, or what we actually get out of packaging this one right here. Go ahead and move the packaging out of the way. We don't really need that for the rest of this review, unless you guys want it in the rest of this review. But its poseability is very on par with what you would get from pretty much all the dinosaurs so far from Jurassic World, except I suppose for the Indoraptor. We'll go ahead and just spread the feet here on the Allosaurus. I always seem to want to find a reason to bring in the Indoraptor, so we'll go ahead and do that one right now. Part of me really wishes that there was a separate extension of this line that had posable versions of the dinosaurs too. I mean, an Allosaurus looks awesome as it is in a Roarivores version, but I would love to see them having approached some of these dinosaurs as fully posable versions as well. I mean, I absolutely adore this Indoraptor, and yes, I've gone ahead and fixed the tail for the few that have said you put the tail on the wrong way. But I do really like the design of this dinosaur, and more importantly, I love the fact that it's superposable. By comparing that to, say, the Allosaurus does, by comparison, seem a little bit more basic, just because it doesn't have as much going for it from a posability standpoint, but it definitely has some really nice design elements to it. But I just kind of felt the need to bring the two in side by side. The Indoraptor definitely does dwarf the Allosaurus, but not really by a lot. If you put the Allosaurus side by side, its hind legs really only keep it lower than the Indoraptor that's behind it. The bodies are roughly about the same size. The tail is a little bit longer on the Indoraptor, but they are of very comparable body builds. That may or may not be the case if you were to actually run into them in real life, which, thank goodness, knock on wood, we don't have real dinosaurs to contend with. And the Indoraptor, of course, made up for the movie itself, but still, I would not be wanting to run into either one of these on the streets or in the jungle if my house was in the jungle. Anyways, let's have a look at some close-up details above and beyond the gray tongue. It just seems so off seeing it like this. I'm gonna have to go back for my own sanity and see if there's other Allosaurus that I can find at least that have this same gray tongue. Maybe they're all across the board like that. Little sad that it's not the same dark color that the packaging would represent it as. Instead, we almost get ourselves a lighter shade of gray happening here, which has this splendid, as best as I could describe this, not the most masculine name to be using or word to be using, but it's such a splendid looking pattern design on the top here. It's almost like Rorschach's. Looking at any one of these, you can almost start making out, oh, like that looks like a monkey's face. Like that looks like a Metroid. You could kind of do that with a lot of the pattern work here that's on the top of Allosaurus. And to its credit, its print runs not only from the very end of its nose in the almost more dotted line sort of detailing, but it runs all the way to the very end of the tail, which some of the other dinosaurs just in general, not even really just the Roarivores, but really the whole dinosaur lines, seem to want to abruptly stop any sort of the additional printing right here, leaving the tail completely vacant of any additional paint. The Allosaurus is not that, and additional to that, it also has the paint running down its leg too, and a glorious amount, like I said, around the eye area. Very small eyes, kind of wish they were a little bit bigger, or at the very least, maybe darken the area around the eyes so that they did stand out a little bit. The departure of the grays and yellows are right around the bone area where you've got some additional red happening here, which doesn't seem anywhere else on the rest of the dinosaur. It's kind of nice to see that. And you know, from like, if you look at it far enough away, you almost don't even see the smaller eyes, that the additional bone structure on the top here, these extra flaps of bone, almost look from a distance that looks like its eyes. Kind of gives it more of a, like a Grimlock sort of design to it. Okay, so we'll go through its posability and then we'll discuss the sound effects, even though one kind of got leaked out there. The legs move forward and back. That's on both sides, by the way. And the legs also split out. Unfortunately, the feet are pre-posed. In other words, for all the movement you can do back and forth, ultimately it only means that the dinosaur, it really can't move, it can't sit in any other pose than the one that they've decided for you. So this stance right here is the stance you're pretty much going to have to go with to get the dinosaur to stand upright. The arms move back and forth. They also hinge outward. Little smaller arms, but not as small as, say, the likes of the Carnotaurus or, for example, the T-Rex. And then on the underside, we've got the lace-like opening here in which the audio is going to come out through the speaker, and then you've got your battery compartment there. Let's not also forget the QR code, which we will scan in a second, but before we do that, we're going to cycle through some of the sound effects that's on Allosaurus here. Simply just take the button that's featured on the top of its spine. It's actually further back than mid-spine. It's closer to the tail, but we're going to press the button here and it'll cycle through approximately 4 different audio sound effects. Let's go ahead and do that now. The reason why I've extended the number of times I'm pressing the button is I want to get back to one sound effect. That one right there. There's something slightly creepy. It almost sounds as if it's chuckling or it's laughing aloud before it's ready to lay into its prey. It's one of the more scarier roars of these dinosaurs that we've seen so far. Just before we have a look at the scanned QR code on the underside of its foot, I just want to bring back in the Metriacanthosaurus. The reason why I wanted to is because I noticed at the time, well, obviously when I did the review of this one, I noticed that the mouth always stayed open. One now can't help but notice that the Allosaurus is doing the exact same thing. So I can't help but wonder if all the ones that have working mouths are automatically spring hinged open so that they always stay, almost stay more ferocious all the time. Going back once again to the Jurassic World app, which I so happen to have on my trusty phone, we're going to go into scan. I'm going to grab the Allosaurus here and make sure I've got a good clear area in which I can scan the QR code. I'm going to go into scan. There we go. And I'm going to take this diamond-shaped outline. I'm going to line it up with the label on the underside of its foot. I seem to be having better luck with this lately than I have at the beginning. And here is the Allosaurus. Roughly similar colors to the one that the dinosaur, the plastic version here that we just recently looked at, just currently looking at, I should say, still has the additional bone structure, as you can see here, in the brighter red. A little bit brighter than what we got with the actual Roarivore, and it's still got the very interesting complementary and almost slightly off coloring of the gray body, the gray hide, and then you've got the additional yellow on its legs and its spine. To the credit of the dinosaur, at least, it has all of that. They didn't leave any of the additional details off the dinosaur when printing it. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like the Allosaurus is doing that much other than just kind of looking at me, almost as if he's wanting to eat me. Let's quickly move on. Just again wish that you could move the dinosaur, you could do something other than, you can kind of just hope and wait it out that the dino does move on its own and just kind of rotates a little bit on its own. But there should have been some triggering, some activation button on here to make it shift or change its direction some way other than just straight out looking at it. Anyways, we're going to go in. It is also a carnivore, as you could probably imagine. We're going to go through and cycle the 3 different information stats on Allosaurus. Let's start with the top one. The Allosaurus is 28 feet long and 6.5 feet high. Now, if you compared that to the Metriacanthosaurus, The Metriacanthosaurus was, I think, 25 feet, if I'm correct. So even though the sizing of the two dinosaurs in plastic form seems similar to one another, it would be very obviously noticeable right away if you put the two real dinosaurs side by side. The Metriacanthosaurus would be quite a bit taller, and approximately about 4 times taller than the Allosaurus. Anyways, we'll cycle through the rest of this. Allosaurus can open her mouth wider than 90 degrees. And lastly, she is a carnivore feeding on other dinosaurs, which also the indicator up at the top there would be some mention, of course, that she is also a carnivore. Definitely one of the scarier looking dinosaurs here is Allosaurus. I really like what Mattel has done with the Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom toy line, branching it off into a couple of different subcategories. So it really meets all the ways that collectors would probably want to pick up these dinosaurs for themselves. They got the 3 3/4 inch figures, which we've had a look at. They've got the vehicles. They've got the action dinos, which are smaller, slightly posable versions of some of the dinosaurs like the Velociraptor and Dilophosaurus. You've got the Roarivores, say, for example, the Allosaurus right here that we just looked at. And then you've got some of the action dinosaurs as well. And there's, of course, T-Rex. T-Rex is going to be coming in a future video, but there's really a lot, no pun intended, to sink your teeth in if you're a Jurassic World fan. I am a big Jurassic World fan. I really like the original movie. And a lot of times when these movie toy lines come out, I like to pick up 1 or 2. This year, I really made myself the proclamation that I was going to go and pick up as many as I possibly could, because I really am such a big fan of dinosaurs as a whole. Anytime there's a new Jurassic World movie or Jurassic Park movie in general, I always want to try to check that out. At the very least, the first week that it comes to theaters. I don't know if I've been kind of slacking when it comes to movies as of late. Sometimes it takes months for me to actually go and have a look at a movie, but I think I'm going to make myself a promise. I'm going to mark on the calendar. I want to see Jurassic World at the very least the first week that it comes out. Don't hold me to that, but today, though, we were having a look at the Mattel Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. This was Roarivores Allosaurus. One of my favorites, I would think, of the Allosaurus of the Roarivore category. I know you're probably thinking, isn't Triceratops your favorite dinosaur? Yes, that's true. But I think this one fits perfectly the category of Roarivores. It's got one of the scarier roars of the dinosaurs out there. And as fittingly perfect as the Stegosaurus was for the action dinos, I think Allosaurus is the perfect spokesperson, if you will, for the Roarivores category of Jurassic World dinosaur pieces. So if you're only going to pick up a couple of these, this one I would really recommend picking up because it's got some nice design elements to it. Loving the patterned work that's all over its spine. And it's got some really interesting looking design elements to it, like I said. And of course, it's got a really scary roar, which is the one thing you would want to have if you're going to be picking up a Roarivore dinosaur. More videos like this, guys, will be coming your way. Of course, not necessarily more videos of Allosaurus, but we're going to have a look at some more Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom toys leading up to the release of Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom to theaters. If you guys like videos like this, let me know down below in the comment section. I kind of like to get a gauge of the viewers out there, what you guys like, what you guys don't like. And if you guys want to go back and have a look at some more Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom toy reviews, there's a playlist on the channel called, that's right, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. You can go back and have a look at everything I've done up to this point, and all the videos coming out after Allosaurus here will also be on that playlist too. Also, make sure you hit that little subscribe button down below, guys. More videos, like I said, will be coming your way. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.